So, what kind of motherboard are you going to use in your new PC?
Hi, I'm Paul, this is Diane, and together we are the PC Zombies, and today we're going to talk about my new PC build, in particular, how I picked the motherboard for it. But before you watch this, you should probably watch our generic video on how to pick a motherboard. It's a real popular video, and it will tell you how to go through all the steps to find the motherboard that works for you. Now, I'm going through those steps now here, so that's where Diane's questions are going to be coming from. All right?
Sounds good.
Let's get to it.
First question, what kind of CPU did you choose?
I already picked the CPU, the separate video for that. I picked the i9-14900KS, the special edition. Now that matters because the motherboard must be compatible with the CPU, and that CPU requires an FCLGA 1700 socket. So we will only be looking at motherboards that have that socket.
Okay, number two, did you identify your requirements?
Yes, I did. And the requirements that are going to affect the motherboard are it's going to have the ability to take a very high-end graphics card. So it's going to have to be a little bit bigger. It's also going to have to be overclockable. I'm going to be overclocking the CPU and probably the memory as well. It needs to support a lot more M.2 drives. Also, I'm going to need more USB ports. I do a lot of backups and I use USB backup drives. Also, USB-Cs keep coming short of that with my current PC. So I want at least 2 or 3 on the back of the PC and 1 on the front. Finally, I'm also going to want to be able to run more memory and faster memory, but it doesn't have to be a ton of memory. I mean, 96 gigabytes should be enough.
Okay, the third thing is, are you going to use water cooling?
Yes, I'm going to use water cooling, and I'm going to do a custom water loop in this PC, and that's because I want to show everybody how to do that, and because it's fun.
The fourth thing is, did you pick a case size?
Yes, ATX, and so I can get a little bit bigger motherboard.
And the chipset?
We're going to do a Z790 because I'm going to do the overclocking.
Number 6, what about the aesthetics?
Aesthetics.
Yeah.
Isn't this more about you? Let's
Yeah.
talk about, I would like to try white. We talked about that in the last video. White, it will reflect better. Maybe the RGB lighting and stuff will look cooler, okay? So we'll start with white. It doesn't have to have RGB on the motherboard, but it would be nice if it had the status indicators. In fact, it will be required. I'm going to be overclocking. I want to have the 2-digit readout that'll help me when I'm debugging this computer.
Makes sense.
And it also has to have some headers. I'm going to have some RGB lights somewhere, maybe one of the water blocks that I will want to connect into the motherboard because it won't necessarily be the same brand as my management software, which will be Corsair.
Okay. Okay, we're on number 7. Did you pick a brand?
Yes, I did. Now, I've talked about this in the motherboard section before. I like Asus, but I didn't talk about in the last video why I like Asus and what the brand really gives to me that makes it hard for me to switch to another brand. I will switch at some point. I'll probably build a computer with another one soon. But when you're picking a brand for a motherboard, it has a long-term effect on you. First of all, the BIOS. If you're overclocking, there are so many menus and switches and things you need to know, and different motherboards may call them different things and they have different BIOSes. I'm very comfortable with the Asus BIOS. It gives me what I need. It has a pretty good user interface. I do use a left-handed mouse. I would love to be able to click differently when I get in there, but other than that, I've really been pretty satisfied with the motherboard BIOS. The other things I like about Asus, and I'm not being sponsored by them, but the other things I like is the documentation is great. It drives the motherboard build. When you're putting the computer together, it's nice to go through the manual and circle all the things that you know you need to do, like, okay, how to do the M.2 drives, how to hook up your case USB ports in the front to the motherboard, how to hook up your RGB lighting. All of these things are very well documented in the Asus manual, so I'm always confident if I'm going to build a computer, Asus is going to lead me through it properly and won't let me forget anything.
Okay.
The other thing I like about Asus is I like their compatibility charts. I can go in and see if it will work with my memory and my CPU. The only thing I don't like that I think is getting better is I don't like the management software for the RGB lighting. The RGB lighting is just those lights. Anything I hooked up to my Asus motherboard, 4 years ago on my last build, those lights are just doing random lighting that has nothing to do with how I programmed them originally. The software gets updated, things get changed, and it just keeps falling further and further behind. But the good news is I've already picked in advance that I'm going to use Corsair management software, which I do like on this build. And the Asus has a plugin for that software, so hopefully I can manage it all through the Corsair user interface, which I do know I like, and it's compatible with the Asus.
Okay, within the brand, what series?
ROG, Republic of Gamers. It has the features I'm going to need. It's the higher end.
Okay, did you select any motherboards within the series?
Yes, within this series, I went through, I got to the website, I looked it up, I found in comparison, and I came down to 3 motherboards that looked like they're a good choice for this build. The Apex Encore, which is great for really fast overclocking, things like that. The Dark Hero and the Formula. Now the difference between the Dark Hero and the Formula are the Formula I can get in white, which is nice.
Yeah.
I can't get that in the Dark Hero. And the Formula also has a built-in water block for the VRMs, and that's really cool. Okay. So I'm hoping maybe to go with the Formula, but I wanted to look at also the Apex. And so although we didn't talk about this in our pick a motherboard video, the next thing I always do is I create a chart starting with my current motherboard, and I put down the 1 or 2 motherboards I'm trying to decide between. In this case, the Apex and the Formula, because the Formula and the Dark Hero are pretty much the same. I'm probably going to drop the Dark Hero right now and say it's either the Apex Encore or the Formula. I built this chart, and what I found was for the most part, these were the same. They all had 5 M.2 cards, except for in the Apex Encore, I have to use a separate DIMM card that holds the 2 M.2 cards. The Apex Encore also, it really allows you to go with faster memory, and the overclocking really is made to go fast. So that was a real hard one to let go of. But the Apex Encore doesn't have a video output on the board, so there's no HDMI connector. And that I kind of need, because I'm going to be doing a lot of overclocking and other things, and if something goes wrong, I don't want to be dependent on a graphics card that will be hard to troubleshoot at that moment. So I'm kind of leaning now towards the Formula. They also both have the same amount of USB connectors for the most part, USB-C connectors. But the Formula also has the water block for the VRMs.
Okay.
It has the output, like I said, for the HDMI, and it also comes in white. So why don't we build this with the Formula? Because I'm only going to be losing a little bit on faster memory, but I think I can live with that.
Okay, so does the Formula conform with the CPU?
Tell me, that's number 10, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
All right. Yes, it does. I looked it up on the compatibility chart, and they work. So stick around. Our next video is going to talk about how to pick your memory. Please subscribe so you don't miss it.
And give us a thumbs up if you like the video. And I like your choice, by the way.
Why, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.